A tech with a process does not burn out mentally. They focus on the customer, not what to say next. That's the most important part, is they're able to focus on that human being, not thinking of what am I going to say when he or she says something next.
Welcome to the Waste No Day podcast, a podcast specifically for and about the home services industry as it relates to plumbing, heating, air conditioning, and electrical. More than a podcast, Waste No Day is a credo, a determination, a mindset. It is a never-ending discipline. It is a refuse to lose pursuit. It is a wake-up call every morning to waste no day. Now here's your hosts, Brian Burton and Nate Minnick.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the Waste No Day podcast. Your host, Nate and Brian, hanging out with you again. Looking forward to another good episode. It's that time of year for us to talk about the power of a process. And it's going to be a good time. And it's always a great reminder for us to dive into this topic, especially as we're headed into some pretty busy days, for us to make sure that you have a process, that it's dialed in, that you're following it, that it's designed to work, and that it's designed to work for you and your paycheck. It's going to be a good episode, and just Brian and myself are going to be doing the content this time, and we're excited to get to that. But before we do, it's time for us to introduce a little bit of the show on this side of the guest, which in this case is us. But on this side of the front end of the episode, we're looking forward to having a great introduction. We're going to start it off with a quote from Brian.
Success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. Jim Rohn.
Do you just have a book of his quotes that you just page through and randomly point to one, or?
I've read so much of his stuff and they're always kind of in my head. And occasionally I'll think of a quote by somebody and I'll go like, who was that? And what was that from? And I'll look it up and I'm like, it's so often it was a Jim Rohn quote. Just crazy too, because I read way more and listened to, I should say, in my truck, way more Brian Tracy at that time. But Jim just had so many just awesome, short one-liners.
Sure.
And I'll think they're completely different people oftentimes when I go to look them up and I'm like, oh, no, it's Jim again. Welcome back. Welcome back to Waste No Day, Jim.
So, Brian, why are we talking about this topic? It's the middle of May, some of the heat's already upon our HVAC friends. Summertime's coming. We got a lot of things going down. Why now?
I don't know where, buddy, because it's like a high of 70 in Phoenix today. And I was in Nashville this past weekend and it was like 58 and raining all weekend. Good thing we were in the Gaylord Opryland, which is its own ecosystem. So we didn't even know.
Nice. Yeah, literally.
Well,
place is awesome.
There's never a bad time to talk process. That's for sure. But I was involved with HVAC for many years, like yourself now. And one thing you could see happen very often was that in the shoulder season, in the slower season, people who had mastered their process in selling HVAC equipment would get to the real rush of the hot season. And that process would just kind of slowly but surely go out the window, right? And you could tell because the calls got shorter and shorter, but the conversion rate didn't drop. So this is the parallel you could draw, or the correlation, I guess. You would see the time on call get shorter, and you would see the conversion rate stay the same or even go up. But then and this is the temptation, then when the shoulder season comes back, which there's 2 a year for HVAC, it's spring and fall. So when the weather goes away and now you're back to selling HVAC equipment on small repairs on older equipment or on maintenance calls and tech flips and stuff like that. Well, now your process is dang important again.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden the time on the call goes up, but the conversion rate goes down.
Right.
And the challenge becomes, I've forgotten my process. Or oftentimes people start in a demand season, or, if you're plumbing or electrical or garage doors or something like that, you just start in a company in the busy season. You learn your craft in the busy season. And there's just call after call after call to run and burn, and you still make a good revenue and a good paycheck, but all of a sudden you get a little slow and you need a process and a real high conversion rate really badly, because you got a crappy conversion rate and a low ticket average and the company's slow. You're not running calls. I know it feels quote unquote unfair. In a business, it's the fairest thing in the world. Feels unfair, but if you were the boss and you had a budget to meet and bills to pay and payroll to make, who are you giving the calls to?
Sure.
So it's tough, because I've been, on the losing end of the conversion rate and ticket average draw in my career, and realize that and the first thing you want to do is be mad at leadership. Well, it's always better than being mad at myself, isn't it? And you want to look for someone else to blame, and that's an easy target. Dispatch, management, owner, it's an easy target. But the more you get into things like extreme ownership and real accountability, it doesn't necessarily make it any easier, but it makes you a better person. And what a better person does is looks inward. Maybe this isn't all my fault. Maybe it's 90% management and dispatch fault, but maybe it's 10% my fault, right? So what can I do to mitigate that 10%? To me, that sums up Jocko's book, Extreme Ownership, from a home services perspective, but probably life perspective in every aspect of it.
Yeah.
Hone in hardcore on that little bit of the situation that might be my own fault, when really it's probably flipped. It's probably 70% our own fault and 15% circumstance, and then 15% the other person in most cases. So let's just assume it's all our fault and just go ahead and fix it.
There's a saying that we toss around at our office, and it's been used various other places, but revenue covers a multitude of sins, right? And I was just having this conversation with one of our general managers, and Brian, I know you're familiar with that he's killing it. He's crushing budget, right? And it's fantastic. We love it. It's celebrating and all that. But when you dial into some of the gross profit areas, we want to see some improvement. Well, when's the best time to see that improvement? Best time to see that improvement is when you're winning, because making the improvement and the adjustments doesn't come at the cost of any significant loss. You're already winning. So even if we make a couple tweaks here or there, it's just that much sweeter. But when you're losing, you operate in a state of panic and distress, and we have to do something. And so you just start ripping levers, all this type of thing. And maybe you make poor decisions, and you're certainly operating out of a place of fear rather than out of a place of surplus. So I use that same statement, revenue covers a multitude of sins, and tie that back into what we're talking about here today, which quantity covers an air of quality, right? In the jobs call business, which so much of our home services industry is based upon, did you get your calls today? How many did you run? 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever it is. The quantity of the calls can overcome the lack of quality within those calls if there is enough of it. Meaning that even if you're closing at a poor percentage, or even if your average ticket is low, or even if you have some shortcuts in your process and some inefficiencies, or even if you're getting a couple, 3-star reviews type of thing, by sheer quantity of things, you can push past that and you can still look like a success, and you can still have some success. But when that quantity starts drying up, the quality of the calls and the operator becomes way more apparent, because everything gets a little bit more micro analyzed. Everything gets a little bit more put under the magnifying glass to see what's going on. Because now we don't have the quantity to make up for the lack of quality. And so whether you're in HVAC or not, it doesn't really matter, because there will come a point in time in your trade specifically when the quantity runs low. And when the quantity runs low, the lack of your quality in the performance, in the customer service realm, in the close rates and average tickets and all the other KPIs that your industry cares about will become painfully obvious, because you can no longer make up for it with sheer mass. And that is really the idea behind today's subject and this introduction, is that whether or not you are in the river of free-flowing call counts right now or not, it will come and it will expose us to a degree that makes us uncomfortable. So while we are in the flow and while we have some time, let's sit down and make sure that we have a process that is dialed in and is prepared to carry us through whatever dry stretch or famine of calls that may be in the future.
Steve Jobs is considered one of the most charismatic, visionary human beings in modern history. In 2007, there's an insanely famous keynote that he put on where he walked out on stage in his signature black turtleneck and jeans, held up a shiny little screen and said, "Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone." And what most people didn't know is that the quote unquote spontaneous moment was the product of weeks of rehearsals. Jobs actually rehearsed 6 hours a day for weeks, scripted every second of that keynote like it was a Broadway play. And he didn't just practice what to say, he practiced how he would say it. So he practiced when to pause, he practiced when to smile, he practiced where to walk exactly, like step by step on that stage. Which screen would change when he pressed the buttons on his little clicker, how fast the animation would load. And then behind the scenes, they had backup devices, backup Wi-Fi, backup projectors. If anything glitched during that presentation, there was a second version queued up just in case. Because he knew in order to sell the future, the process had to be flawless. And if one of the most charismatic, visionary humans in modern history refused to rely on his charisma and vision, it's like, who am I?
Exactly.
I mean, he had a process to build trust, to create predictable outcomes, and drive billions in sales. And it didn't start that way. The process kind of made it.
Well, that and more is what we are going to be talking about today. And great way to kick it off there, Brian. Before we get to the meat of the content here, it's time for us to highlight one of those special individuals who has taken the time to share some love with us. We enjoy all of those who stop by and give us a review. And there's a couple reasons that we bring that up on a lot of the shows and the episodes. You've heard it before, but just as a reminder, not only is it just great morale boost and everything, but what it does in terms of the algorithms and how programs like Spotify or Apple Podcasts or those types of things position is based off of reviews. In addition to what Brian mentioned not too long ago, more reviews equals better guests, because certain level guests are looking for an audience that they can count on because they only have so much time to do podcasts. And so they look for high qualitative and quantitative review counts to make sure that it is a justified interview for them. And we love having great guests to bring on for you. So Brian, who are we highlighting today who's taking the time to help us in that effort?
You can have all of your dreams come true. 5 stars. Listen, write down, study, and role play all these free resources. Stop with the excuses. Stop saying that I don't deserve to make more money and have all my dreams. You can change. Don't wait for the new year. Start today and truly waste no day. Brian and Little Chirp are awesome. Maddie Newby.
Okay. Shout out to my rapper community.
That sounded like you reading the outro, didn't it? Was that Little Chirp? Is Maddie Newby another rap name of yours?
I left my own review. Yeah. You know what that is? That's an old timer right there. You can tell by that they've been with us for a while. So appreciate that, Maddie.
Man, they have, there's a review that came through here in the last few days, which this one was left in October of 2024. So it's going to be a few episodes before we get to it. But it was I don't remember what trade he was in, but said, I've been in this trade for 40 years and I would give anything to have had this show early in my career.
Man,
I was like, dang. Yeah. It's awesome, man. And I've been alive about 40 years, 45 to be exact, but I've been in the trades for I mean, I
48.
dropped out of high school. It feels like it. Dropped out of high school to run plumbing calls. So it's like most of my life. And I can't imagine having a version of Waste No Day when I was young in a truck dying for something to listen to that could help me run calls, but also like help me want to be in the trade that was just so brutal, especially in new construction days. Yeah, but appreciate it, Maddie. You have to look at it like the amount of quality reviews left on the show is the show's resume to people deciding whether they want to come on it. The more reviews we have, the higher quality those reviews are, the more higher level people, more famous people, like Nate said, who have to filter these things out for just based on time, the more they'll say, okay, there's an audience here. Because for the most part, nobody has any idea what any other podcast's actual audience looks like. There was a company called Chartable that was doing it for a little while. They just went belly up and closed down the website. Even that's gone. So you really don't know. There's ways to tell like the top, I don't know, 10 or 25 or whatever in each category. And nobody's going to dig that hard and find that. They simply open your show in Apple, or now Spotify starting to gain traction since they do the stars, 5-star reviews, 5-star reviews.
There you go.
But for the most part, the gatekeepers, they just open up Apple, see what kind of reviews the show has, how long it's been around, and that's it. That's the deciding factor. So if you want better guests, and you do, even if you don't, I do, go ahead and leave a review if you haven't left one yet. Just did a boot camp this past weekend in Nashville.
Yes, sir.
I don't know. Like when I walk in when it's go time, certainly on day one. And I probably look like a prick when I do it because I'm just like, I just laser past everybody into the stage or the podium or the mic, depending on what room we have. And it probably looks cold, but I'm not like trying to be dodgy because a lot of people are trying to run up to me and tell me how much they love the show. But I have so much that I have to get off. And it's funny because I had a laptop open this time. I've never had anything open before, but because we made some slides, like basically what's in the GoPro system workbook was on the projectors behind me.
Nice. Yep.
I'm like, this is going to be cool. But I'm just banging away stories and process and everything. And I forgot where I was or something. And I'm like, wait, what was I saying? Oh, yeah. Okay. And then I was just like, oh, so you guys know. And I just flipped the screen around. I was like, I don't have any notes. So I walk up to the stage and I'm like trying to not remember, but just keep it formatted. Like I have my process, but it's pretty dialed in. I've been training it for 12 years. And then I was doing it myself for another decade before. Like, you know, I know what I'm doing up there, but there are things that I add and take away for every boot camp, things I don't think had that big of an impact. And now I'm moving in something like I don't want there to be a 5-minute segment of that 2 full days of training where if a tech only walked in for that 5 seconds, they didn't have their minds blown.
Mm-hmm.
Like I want every 5 minutes of that thing to be as impactful, motivational and inspirational for sure, but also usable, strategic things that you could walk out and just go change your income and your communication skills in your life in general. So trying to keep a lot of stuff straight. Like I can put stuff on notes, but I can rarely make my notes make sense to me. I can't read my handwriting. Let's face it. I know that
I've seen your handwriting. That's accurate. Yes.
But a lot of people, they just say, hey man, love the show, love the show, love the show. So I've been listening for 2 years. I'm like, yeah, awesome. Fist bump, fist bump. But then in the first break, now I have a little time and I'm just saying what's up to everybody. And as they come in, man, show's changed my life. 2 years, 2.5 years I've been listening, changed my life. What's my question?
What date did you leave that review on?
Yeah. Have you left us a review? I'm telling you, it's like 1 out of 100 people. It goes, oh yeah, I left it. It's almost never. They're like, oh no, man, I know you say it every week. I got to do it. I got to take care of that.
Give me your phone.
Yeah, put it down. So yeah, if you like the show, man, we don't ask a ton, but go ahead and leave a review. That's all.
We appreciate that. Yes,
well,
sir.
We might ask a little bit more than that. Now that we had boot camp, baby, and we got the Waste No Day Facebook group, we got the Blue Collar Closer School community, SKOOL. If you don't have a process, if you need a process, freaking use mine. School.com, bluecollarcloser.com. It's a monthly subscription. You're dropped into a community of animals, beasts, looking to get better. And then my full process is broken down into very short videos of me yapping behind a camera. And I mean, we got Wiser Wednesday videos in there. We're going to drop some like short 5-minute or so clips of videos of me and Nate and our podcast guests, some of our more famous guests in there, since we don't actually release any video. We do record it, but we do not release it. So we're going to edit that up and get some little clips in there, some good stuff. Maybe we can find the one where Little Chirp came from.
Oh my, I hope not. I don't think we were doing video at that time.
Yeah, I don't think so. No, we were in the conference room in Lancaster, so it was just a couple mics.
Yes, sir. No, I'm very excited about that, Brian. And you're going to be hearing more about the Blue Collar Closer community here in the near future as we continue to push content into that. But it's a great segue into our conversation today around the power of a process. And it's time for Brian and I to fight over your passenger seat. In 1935, a prototype Boeing bomber crashed during a test flight, killing 2 crew members. The plane was mechanically sound, but the pilots had forgotten a basic step before takeoff. The conclusion? The aircraft was too complex to fly. In response, pilots began using a simple pre-flight checklist, a step-by-step process covering everything from flaps and fuel to instruments and doors. The same aircraft, the Model B-17, went on to fly over 1.8 million miles without a serious accident after the checklist was introduced. Today, in the aircraft industry, checklists are non-negotiable processes that are followed to the T, contributing to commercial air travel being one of the safest modes of transportation in the world. This idea has since influenced the other fields like surgery, nuclear power, and more about the power and success of a process. Now, I love that illustration, and I think it ties in so nicely with what we're talking about here for so many reasons. From a safety aspect, from a did I get my mind in the right place? Did I handle this customer service situation properly? Did I do my tune-up or my diagnosis or my work properly? Do I have an installation of excellence type of form on the back end of things to make sure that quality was assured? There's so many opportunities to institute a process into the home services industry that can yield such great quality results. And what it does for you is it creates a system and a framework to replicate those quality results day in and day out. And the power of the process here is, yes, there's great power in a sales process, but that is such a narrow view on what the power of a process can do. It's really any process that is designed and followed to can make success for your install teams, for your dispatchers, for your call takers, for your trainers, for your technical guys, like you can design processes all over the place. And any well-designed process that is adhered to will create what we are looking for, which is a duplicate result of a great time, a great customer service experience, a great phone call, a great problem solving in the field, a great installation, a 5-star review, a great sale. Every single place that you're looking to recreate a quality experience can be narrowed down to some level of a process. And that's where we're going to start today.
Yeah, and I'd like to maybe even back it up a little bit further as well and talk about, Nate just made the case for all the obvious reasons to have a process of some kind, right? From the standpoint of the client, the standpoint of the job and whatever you're trying to accomplish and getting closer to your goal. But what about personally? So you driving as a tech, you're the prototypical technician or salesperson in the home services, the process is, you know, how to put your booties on and where to park, and you're going to knock on the door. And then from there, it's just kind of whatever comes out. Well, we talk about decision fatigue, or we have talked about it on the show a couple times. It's an actual medical syndrome where the human brain can only handle so many decisions per day. It's the reason that I typically lean toward the 3-option close versus the 6, although I know there are a lot of people doing 5 and 6 very successfully. But me, myself, I teach 3 to newer techs, and I even have a couple guys on my team who do 5 or 6, but the decision fatigue is real. Well, when you have an exact process figured out, you're cutting down the amount of decisions you have to make per day, because, well, the human brain can only handle so many decisions per day. And when we get to that number, whatever it is, and it's a different number for everybody, you shut down. So you just mentally, your energy level tanks. And every call you run is a series of like probably hundreds of little tiny decisions that you have to make. When they say something, you're going to say this. This is why I'm like, role play is the most important thing we do. You don't have to make a decision when you've role played a rebuttal to the top 16 objections. There's no decision there. You know what you're going to say because you've said it so many times. And a process reduces that mental strain. It frees up energy for that real-time customer connection and creativity. So the process, like GoPro, my selling process that I train in the boot camps and teams that I work with, it's just an overall 5-step process. I mean, really 8 if you include GACA, which is step 1. So it's not enough. It's not like an exact scripted everything you say in the call. It's not even close. It's the 8 things that you're going to do from beginning to end that probably frees up 80 little decisions that you don't have to make. And it's a very well crafted by running calls, not one of these, you know, so many of these quote unquote sales trainers that have never run a call, never sold anything in their lives, but put a bunch of theory together by reading books or whatever. And you go out and try their stuff, or at least I have many times, and I'm like, where did that even come from? Now I can just hear them saying it and go, that won't work in the home. And we've had a couple of those trainers on the show, get them to role play, doesn't go well, or we don't get them to role play because we see where it's going. And you get a lot of pushback on those people about, you never sell anything, you only serve. You just serve. You know how much I love that, the sales trainer jargon, right, Nate?
Oh, yeah.
So it leaves, if there's a 5 or 8 step process or whatever, the big decisions to make during your sales call are handled. And then there's all kinds of small scripts inside of it that take tons of other little decisions away. But what it leaves energy for is the dynamic stuff that is going to come your way during the course of a regular call. So you have all this excess energy stored up. Now, hopefully you didn't drink too much last night or stay up playing video games. You got some good sleep because you're going to need that energy. But you should have a nice store of energy saved up from not having to make all these decisions. And then the fact that you've role played so many things that you know are going to happen on the calls today, because they happen all the time, you'll just muscle memory those. Boom, boom, boom. The responses just come naturally. So you don't have to sit there and think and strain on it. A tech with a process does not burn out mentally. They focus on the customer, not what to say next. That's the most important part, is they're able to focus on that human being, not thinking of, what am I going to say when he or she says something next? And even like business success, it's built on repeatable systems. It's not built on luck and charisma. Processes turn variable outcomes into predictable outcomes, like time and time again. If you're going to, I think it was Tommy's where I heard the quote. I don't know if it's his, but the nail it and scale it quote, right? You nail down a system for what you do that makes you successful, and then you scale it by just repeating it over and over and over. But it's a system. It's a process. If you don't have a repeatable way to close, you can't replicate it enough to be really successful. You can't teach it to others. You can't scale your own success. And the worst part is when you stop selling, there's nothing to measure. Like there's nothing to go back and go, here's where I failed. I stopped doing this. Like you have no idea what you stopped doing. And I've seen techs with high charisma who relied on that energy and natural ability with people who would naturally be completely fried late in the day, and don't even ask them late in the week because they're completely burned out, who adopted a system and double, triple, quadruple their revenue with less hours worked and still have energy for everything else on the weekend. I've seen that more times than I can count.
You mentioned Steve Jobs, Brian, and he famously was the type of person who wore the same thing every single day.
Yep.
He wore a black mock turtleneck, usually blue jeans, and typically New Balance sneakers. And the reason that he did it
I love that, bro. I'm getting more into that. Like I'm just going to get like 25 of the exact same polo, 25 of the same pair of pants, and 25 of these super comfortable Travis Matthew black shoes with the white bottom that you see me in all 3 boot camps. I'm wearing the same pair of shoes. I now have 2 pairs of the exact same shoes. Does that mean I'm getting old or like,
well,
dude, I thought it's 2025.
Yeah.
I thought we'd all be in the guy uniform or the girl uniform by now. There's no way I thought we'd have 10 million different shirts to choose from. Let's just streamline this thing.
Yeah, I mean, the streamlining piece is so important. And, I was thinking about like a computer as we were talking through this. Like, if you open up your web browser and, there's different people out there, but some people have like 300 tabs open, right? The website they visited 6 months ago that's still
Kyle
sitting
Brewer,
there.
dude, stresses me out when I look at his computer. I'm like, dude, put your computer on screensaver when I'm behind your desk. Oh.
But when you think about it, like that computer is spending just gobs of processing power, in this case, not in a good way, just trying to remember all those things or trying to keep it like somewhat refreshed and whatever. And it's just bogging the entire system down. Now, I'm not using that as to go the other way on process. What I am saying is that what the illustration you related about being able to have a process so you're actually freed up is what I'm talking about, because that mental processing power is like trying to have 300 tabs open in Chrome. And it's just continually just trying to bring up a fresh page again. And you're like, why is my computer getting slower? Why is the internet so slow? I don't know. Maybe it's because you need to close a couple things out. And so the ability to have a process that is systemized, and then you start talking about making it so that you don't even think about it, allows you to be so focused and in tune in the moment. We talk a lot on this podcast about body language, about reading the signs, about looking into their eyes and lifting your eyebrows and tilting your head back a little bit and all these types of things, or observing those types of behaviors in your client, seeing that they are getting frustrated or that they're distracted or that they seem a little bit worried or a little bit edgy. Do you think you're paying attention to that stuff if you're still trying to figure out what I'm supposed to say now? Right? Having that process dialed into a degree of permanence or professionalism where it's inherent in what you are doing allows you to have the focus to actually look them in the eyes, to actually see what their facial expression is doing, to actually demonstrate empathy, because no longer are you worried about what comes next in my process. You're worried about the here and now emotions of the situation. My client seems upset. This seems like distressing news. They seem distracted. I wonder what's going on in their mind. And that allows you to be more human, which allows you to create more of a bonding and rapport with that client, which allows you to connect on a new level, which now allows you to build trust, which allows you to serve that client at the highest level, whether it's with a sale or an install or a fix or any of those types of things, which is the problem at hand. While there may be 30 other problems that they're dealing with in their mind, you can relate to all of those because your process is allowing you the freedom to actually engage with them at that level.
Yeah, buddy. We all love the highlight reels, the Sports Center half court buzzer beater shot, the game-winning dunk on 2 defenders. But what built Michael Jordan wasn't talent. It was process. I'd say Kobe too. I said this at boot camp, but I didn't really pay that much attention to Kobe when he was around, But
Yeah.
since he's been gone, like I've seen YouTube clips of him on like Patrick Bet David show and all these shows and stuff. And I'm like, dude, I can't get enough of the dude. Like he's a philosopher. Just what a mindset of ridiculously hard work trumping talent. But Jordan, during his peak, he was shooting 500 free throws a day, even on game days. And why? Because when the pressure's on and your legs are jelly and the crowd is screaming, your body doesn't rise to the occasion. It falls to your level of training. That's like the muscle memory thing. That's when the muscle memory kicks in. And Phil Jackson said Michael trained so hard that when he got to the game, it was easier for him than practice. That seems like an astonishing quote and like a far cry. But if you really think about what we do, if you adopt a process and then you role play it like crazy in front of a team, and hear me on this, the worse the team, the better. Like if you have a real supportive group that gives you half hugs and high fives on the way back to your seat, no matter how bad you screw up, that's cool. Feels good. Right. But if you have a super ultra critical team that's half in, half out, and you feel like you're the one dragging the team along and they don't even want to be there, and like, that's probably even better for you, realistically. Not for the meeting, but for in the home. Because you're like really pushing yourself, being on your P's and Q's and juggling a lot of emotions in that. It's probably ultimately better for you. But either way, get some people together and shoot 500 free throws a day. Get after it. Even when Michael was the best in the world, he never stopped drilling the fundamentals. Footwork, fadeaway, the process, the sweat-drenched process. He was working on free throws. 500 free throws a day. Sounds miserable. But all we see is like the highlights of him doing the Air Jordan where he jumps and halfway up he's like, it almost is like he dribbles the ball between his legs but in the air,
Yeah,
and then brings it all the way around for like a 360 and dunks it with the other hand all mid-air. I mean, that's where Air Jordan came from. Ridiculous. But you didn't think of that on the spot. It just looked that cool. You probably practiced that 200 times a day for like the 6 weeks leading up to that game.
So I think we've done a good job at explaining to you why there is such a need for a process, what the value is, what the outcome is, and how it's going to be beneficial to you, your clients, and really your paycheck in so many ways. When you think about a process, Brian, and you think about the things that can go wrong, especially if somebody doesn't have one and they're like, all right, okay, this makes sense. I think I'd like to do this. Or yeah, I know. I need to be a little bit more disciplined. Okay, I'm going to do it. Here's where we're going to go. Here's what we're going to do and how it's going to look. When you think about that, what are some of the common trip ups or mistakes or things that bump us off of that determination that prevent us from actually accomplishing a true process?
When we finally decide to get on a process, what keeps us from actually doing it?
Either keeps us from doing it or we start it and then we kind of fall off the wagon or any of those things. Like what are some just common things that make the process of getting a process so difficult?
Your vocabulary is what impresses me, Nate. Never redundant. Well, it's the same as anything, man. It's easier not to.
Sure.
Like it doesn't really boil down to much more than that. I started lifting seriously every morning in rehab. So in about 2012. Now at that time, it was like I was locked out of society. I was away from my family. I had train wrecked my career. I was in a hole emotionally and spiritually. I was convinced that I was an atheist or at least agnostic for years. And I just figured in every way I could get better, I was going to get better. Now, we had very limited time to work out, and I wanted to do cardio and weights. So one of those things had to be at like 5 a.m. or 5:30. I don't remember the exact time. So I just got up and did it because it's the only chance I would get. And I didn't have anything else to do. So that helped. And then when I got out of there, it was very difficult after like 2 months to keep doing it because now I had family and a life to live and work. And I worked late all the time. I mean, my credit score when I got out of there was like low 500s. And I wanted to buy a house where we were at now in Pennsylvania. And we flipped that credit score around and bought that house in like 16 months or something.
Nice.
Paid off all the debt, but I just worked my tail off. I mean, if there were calls, I was running them. So I was getting home pretty late, but it was still like, I got to work out. So in the slow seasons, when I knew it was slow, I just go work out when I didn't have any calls until, Tanya and Robin from dispatch back then at your shop call me when something comes in. I'll be ready. Just give me a little bit to jump in a shower and change. And I went to the gym. Now I wanted, and now to this day that I work out every day, that's what I do. I wanted to do that. Do you think I wanted to start doing that when I hit 32 and went to rehab?
Right.
I wanted to do that my whole life. Like here's part of the challenge. I didn't know how to lift weights. It was a very foreign concept to me, but I'd always wanted to do it. It's just a lot easier not to. So one is not seeing the immense value in the thing. Yes. So one reason that would keep somebody from starting it or following through with it if they did start it is you don't see the pot of gold at the end of that rainbow. Well, hopefully this episode will serve in some capacity to push you in the right direction and show you that there's quite literally a pot of gold, as many technicians and salespeople in the home services could tell you. Mm-hmm. Quite literally gold. And then one can be like accountability. So I had a crew of dudes in rehab that several of them were kind of fresh out of prison or actually got their sentence reduced by going to this program. And they were beasts. And these were jacked monsters that you wanted to work around or work out around. And it was like, this is my chance. And they got there then. So the accountability was there. I'm going to get up. I don't know how many push-ups I could do right now, but like bring a snack. It's going to be a while.
More than 12.
Yeah. When I got in there, I could not do one. I was 32. I couldn't do a push-up. And for no real particular reason, these guys were just obsessed or interested in my obsession with getting all things cleaned up and fixed. And they liked how badly I wanted it, despite the fact I couldn't do it. I couldn't put any weight on the bar when I bench pressed the first time. It was just a 45-pound bar. Like I was a weak dude. Crazy too, because I plumbed hard, Like I don't know. I could fling a water heater around, no problem. Just wrap my belt around my wrists and throw it around the water heater. But these workout movements I was super weak at. And they would throw a towel or a t-shirt under me, and one guy would stand on one side and one guy would stand on the other side, and they would just give me the slightest bit of help across my chest when I was trying to do those first few push-ups. Because I couldn't do any, they just said, just grab the railing right there and do like some 45-degree angled push-ups. And then I was able to start repping them out and then getting a couple push-ups off the floor. And next thing you know, I could do 10. And I remember getting to that number, double digit, like it was so cool. And then before I left there, I think the most I did was 80 in a clip, just rifled them off. And I had the accountability. I had there's a literal pot of gold at the end of the rainbow figured out. I knew I wanted it badly. And I had someone around me who could help me understand the concept and what I needed to do to get where I wanted to go. I think those three things are your biggest issue. If you started it and you just kind of lost steam, well, that's probably an accountability problem. There's no such thing as true independence, right? There's independence where people think they've mastered everything and they're off on their own. That doesn't tend to be very healthy. There's codependence when you can't do anything without anyone else. Like you're just useless. And then there's interdependence. Stephen Covey talked a lot about this in 7 Habits. And I actually sent Nate a quote on it this morning, coincidentally.
That's why I'm smiling.
Yeah. And I know we were going to talk about this piece right here, but that interdependence is Nate and me deciding that we can get where we want to go faster and more effectively by helping each other get there than by going our own separate way. You know what they say, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with a team. And there's a lot of truth to that, because getting everyone on board and moving in the same direction, it's always a pain. It's always conflict, even with the blue collar closer, right? Like, how many things did we, mostly me, getting going full steam ahead and just completely changing course, and like, we're going this way now. And Nate's like, I just did 2 days of work on this direction. And that's probably what you did for the thing that I just completely shifted on, right? Like, even Kyle came to me and was like, bro, that's that's not cool. Like, Nate put a lot into that. Like, he's fine. He's fine. Don't worry about him. High C's on the disc profile love when you change things up like that and stuff.
Oh, yes. Yes, it's enjoyable.
But it's that interdependence, that understanding that we work better as teams and on teams. And it makes you not overly independent to where you're ostracized, and not overly codependent where you just plain aren't effective, like you're useless, right? It's that perfect middle ground. And trying to go at something like working out or sobriety or a diet or a fitness plan or a process, a selling process alone, is thinking that you're going to cast yourself out on an island somewhere and just start learning things. And it's just not how it works. So you get accountability, someone who knows the process, who does it well, who can teach it effectively, because that can be a struggle too. Oftentimes people have a really good process, and getting others to want to listen to them is a struggle for whatever reason. I've been there. So you got to kind of hit it from all three of these angles, not perfectly, but in some way, a little bit in each one. So you need all of these things. So any one of those can stop somebody.
I think that's really insightful, Brian. And to kind of double down on that a little bit, a follow-up question, I guess, would be, if I'm starting from scratch, is there value to me trying to design a process from A to Z, like the whole way through? Do I need the whole checklist? Is that too much? Is it better for me to come up with, steps 1, 2, 3 and really master those before I come up with 4, 5, and 6? From your perspective and in your trainings and your GoPro system and just your experience in the industry and working with hundreds of people, do you find it to be more successful to let's write down, let's design, let's create the entire system the whole way through and then work at it? Or is it more beneficial to begin mastering, for example, push-ups? Like, let's master push-ups. Let's leave the bar on the rack. Let's leave the weights on the stand over there. Let's just get push-ups dialed in. And then you know exactly what you're doing.
It's a lot easier long-term. It's an easier strategy to say, let's master push-ups, and then we'll work our way up to weights, right? And then we'll just do bench, and then we'll jog a little, and then we'll work our way up to air squats, and then we'll put some weight on that bar and do some real squats. But when you're talking about mastering a process, you know what the big challenge is? If you start with baby steps and just learn like your opening statement, your upfront contract, your initial agreement, or sorry, I'm blanking on what Tom Hopkins called it, your intentionality statement. The challenge is it tends to be with salespeople, and like nobody in any other profession. If you master your intentionality statement and then you don't sell with it, you just stop. It's overwhelming. I've seen it more times than I can count. And not just in the home services, even in timeshare, I would see people like trying to master their presentation. Those that actually did, most never even thought to. They just thought like their love of the product and charisma would sell vacation plans or whatever. And once that initial energy ran out, they were gone, probably within their first month. But when you try to piecemeal it and do a little bit at a time and then don't see any success, which obviously you're not going to see, then you just a lot of people just tend to give up and say, this wasn't for me. So in boot camp, I train the entire front to back process. We role play certain segments of it that we have time for, that I know if you can master these 3 parts of it, which you should be able to do before we leave, you'll go see success pretty quickly. And then you have your booklet and you can fill in the rest and learn the rest as you go, right? And then you have Waste No Day. And this process has been spilled out probably 20 times over the past 4 years, right? And you can listen now and just fill in the gaps and understand where you're supposed to be. And now we have Blue Collar Closer, bluecollarcloser.com. You don't have to guess anymore, where it's all going to be put together for you. It's already mostly in there and getting more added every day. And I'm pretty pumped about it, man. You know, I even got a mouse pad with the little blue collar, and it says Blue Collar here. Let me show you. There you go. Yeah, right there.
Very nice. Yes.
Bammo. Blue Collar Closer. I'm stoked. We have had people asking us for this for at least 3 of the last almost 4.5 years we've been doing this show. When will I have the Waste No Day principles in something that I can go online and learn? The answer is now, my friend. The answer is now. Get up in there. We're going to be posting role play videos. We're going to have the members posting role play videos. I still love the concept that someone can join today and like this weekend post a video of them role playing like the agreement step of the GoPro system, and then do it again like 18 months from now and see, one, what a difference in just how you memorize the content, but 2, with all the body language and voice tonality and facial expression stuff and hand placement and hand movement stuff that we're going to do in there. Like, what a different human being that person is after 6 months, 12 months, 18 months of being part of Blue Collar Closer. It should be a game changer for the home services. I don't think there's anything like it out there.
Very excited about that, Brian. And like I said, you're going to learn more about that in the coming days and episodes as we continue to push that content out there. But it is live now.
Just go to bluecollarcloser.com.
It is live now. And you can get on there and check it out for yourself. We're very excited about that and what it has for the future. Well, that's a wrap for this episode. We hope that you enjoyed the content and that it's pressed you into a desire to either refine, double check, or maybe even create your process. There's no better time than right now to do that for you, for your clients, for your homeowners, and for your paycheck.
And even, I know this sounded like one big long commercial, and it probably is, because I'm just so Nate knows when I'm excited about something. He's rolling his eyes. You can probably hear them rolling. When I'm excited about something, everybody has to be excited about it. And I'm freaking pumped, man. We've worked our butts off on this thing and dumped a literal fortune into it. And it's finally just open for business as of 2 days ago. And 2 days ago as this records, it'll be a few weeks probably as it airs. But we haven't promoted it at all. We just opened it, and now we're getting ready to do some promoting. So it's like sitting there not being used. We're like, all right, let's get some people in there, because I want to get that feedback. But commercial aside, even if you just start piecing together your own process, just start piecing a process together. Like, don't wing it anymore. So count out the steps of what it takes on your successful sales calls, not the one where it was quote unquote your people, where they were that perfect human being that anytime you see them anywhere, they're going to buy from you. But the one that was a little bit more difficult and the stars all seem to still align for you. That day you nailed the process, even though you don't have one. Write down the steps that happened on that call and just start trying to hit those same steps on every call you're on. This is all I did with the GoPro process. I mean, I had sticky notes all over my dashboard and my note to self notebook, where when something worked out that was cool, I wrote it down. And when I blew something, I wrote it down. And I was like, well, I should have had that and missed it. Why? And I wrote it down. And I just removed the bad stuff and added the stuff that worked, and kept doing that now for 21 years to that same process. That's all that it is. So it's not perfect. As I say, it's my way is a way. My way is not the way. And there are some good processes out there in the home services and in sales in general, but mine's crafted specifically for us, the people hosting and listening to this show.
Mm-hmm. Make sure you check that out, bluecollarcloser.com and onschool, SKOOL.com. We're looking forward to that, and I know that you will too. We're going to leave you with our weekly challenge now, which continues to be the same, to choose to wake up each and every morning and waste no day.